So in this video, I'm going to show you how to replace a manual test with a very simple component test. So let's say we have this page right here. And in fact, we see a score for the stock that we're on. And we have this little button right here, as you see, with the exclamation mark. Now, when I click on that button, I should see a disclaimer, a pop-up. And then when I click anywhere on the page, I should see this pop-up go away. Now, it's a very simple functionality, but generally what a lot of companies do is they hire a QA to test manually for a lot of features, and this would be one of the features they would test for manually. That is, they would go in, they would click on, once again, the button, they would verify that the score disclaimer has appeared, and then when they click anywhere on the screen, they would verify that it goes away. Now, we can replace this manual testing with a very simple component test. And I'm going to show you exactly how that works. So let's get into a component first. So right here, you see we have a component called score. Now, score is the component for the score widget that you see right here. And in fact, the score component has a button for the showing of the disclaimer. So when you click on this button, you invoke the show score disclaimer function. And this function is very simple. All it does is it sets the active state of the score disclaimer to true. Set state is just a hook that we're using here. So it sets that state to true, and then, well, that's it. And then I'll show you the other part where when you click away from the screen, this should close basically. So on the on close of the score disclaimer, the set state should be setting to false. That's how we're toggling it here. So just to show you exactly what's going on with the score disclaimer here is on the on click of the show score disclaimer, that window that you saw, that pop-up that you saw, when you click anywhere on the screen, I should call the props.close feature, the props close function, that is. So when I call that function, going back here, calling that function just literally calls set the active and it sets it to false. So this is very simple functionality of what's going on here, but let's test this out such that we don't have to do manual tests. So let's go into a score first. Okay, so right here is my test. I should say disclaimer should appear on click. Now we have a bunch of setup here. This is just optional, but this is in this application we're using Redux here. So to ensure that our tests run smoothly, we would mock the store and so on. But don't worry too much about all this. What we're actually just doing is we are rendering the component. Render comes from the React test library. We are simply rendering our score component. That's all we're doing. And then from there, we are getting the button to show the disclaimer. Once again, that is that exclamation button. We are getting that button. Once gotten, we are simulating a click event. That's what we're doing here, the fire event.click. And then from there, we are verifying that the show, or rather the score disclaimer container, that is the actual pop-up window that you saw, score disclaimer container, we verify that that is in the document. So this is the very simple component test to, once again, verify that when you click on this button right here, this pops up. Now, that's only halfway done. We also want to verify that when you click anywhere on the screen, that it goes away. So let's go into our score disclaimer test. Should call close function on anywhere click. So once again, we're doing a bunch of setup here. Don't worry too much about this. This is more specific for this Redux-based application. But here is the important part. We are rendering the score disclaimer, and we are also passing in a just spy right here to spy on the close property. Remember, close is a property, and that is a function that's passed into the score disclaimer. That score, that close function is called right here. When you click anywhere on the page, that close function is called. So I want to verify whether that function was called. So what we're doing here is I'm saying, well, go ahead and get the score disclaimer container. The whole container can be clicked on. So just click anywhere on that container and then expect the onClosed. That should be happening. That should have been called one time. So if we go back here, you'll see on the onClose, I should make the active state to be false. Now, that's that. It's a very simple test here that once again allows us to verify that this action is happening as expected. Now, this works. So I'm going to go ahead and run some tests. So I'm going to run our score tests first. So the last one, that's the one that we focused on here. That passed right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and run my score disclaimer tests. And that should pass as well. So that's that. Just ensure that the tests are passing, of course. And also to be safe, you want to ensure that your tests are also failing. So if I were to go ahead and take this out, in other words, if I were to go ahead and not click on the show score disclaimer button, I should expect my score test to fail. So let's go ahead and see my score test fail. There we go. As expected, our test failed. Once again, this allows you to ensure that your tests are working as expected, that it fails when it fails and it should pass when it passes. So let's go ahead and see it pass again. And that's that.